In the words of Condoleezza Rice, education is transformational. It changes lives. When thinking about the transformation that occurred for me from undergrad to grad school, I really had to identify how Black student leadership has been developed, but also the way we perceive it as Black students ourselves. For my research, I've chosen to use the culture relevant leadership learning model as one has expanded their efficacy, identity, and capacity. They're also talking about the leadership learning process and the individual as a whole. As you can see, 5 key component areas, and we'll talk about what leadership looks like for students, but also different barriers that may occur while students are thinking about their leadership experience. For me personally, I have to really think about the historical nature of exclusion and inclusion and the impact it's had here in the state of Florida, but also at Florida State University. My intended incomes for this research project I really wanted to focus on the powers that restrain and restrict Black student leaders from being able to find a sense of belonging on campus, but also those implicit and explicit biases that do exist while students are trying to develop as student leaders as well. As you can see, another thing that I really wanted to focus on was Black Greek elitism, because a lot of students who are not in Black Greek literate organizations don't always know how to find a sense of community, but also what that autonomy looks like as they matriculate through college and undergrad. My methods for my year-long purpose research, I focused on qualitative phenomenological research that had 7 participants, which were one-on-one interviews, Zoom interviews that consisted of about 45 to 60 minutes. Through the interviews, I was able to use my coding team, and we talked about different things from authenticity, resilience, a sense of belonging, and leadership development, and how all these things factor in to the holistic development of student leadership. As you can see, all the interviews were de-identified so that none of the students' information would go out. These students were all across the US. And then lastly, I created a method map to show what these things were. So as you can see at the center, I still have Black students at the center, and we talked about authenticity, resilience, a sense of belonging, and student leadership. And as you can see, the only one that does not have an arrow pointing away from it is student leadership, because as I was doing research and looking at literature, one of the biggest gaps talked about Vanguard University, where student sense of belonging satisfaction is also connected to retention and how students matriculate to graduation. And then lastly, Finalist talked about how the historical nature of higher education has been historically exclusionary to Black and brown students like myself. When thinking about this, the most important takeaway and the most impactful thing of this is understanding that Blackness is indeed a spectrum, but also we have to remember that the multiplicity of identities is how Black student leaders make meaning of their experiences, but also how they seek out support and how they find a resource for themselves. If there's anything that I could say about this research is that I figured, the biggest thing I can say from this research that I found is that it's not enough research done about Black leadership development and how so often that Black students are chosen to be resilient in spaces where they're not even seen as visible and valuable. If we don't see our Black students as people first, understand that their experiences on the spectrum are not monolithic, then we will not be able to ever understand their experiences and how we can better support them as students, but also as future leaders. When we think about leadership development, we must start first at the person and understand that leadership starts within, and how can we as university supporters, university external stakeholders, and everything in between, better support students so not only can they understand their own personal identity, but we can maximize their efficacy, capacity, and their individual realization of who they are. So in closing, the only thing I wanted to ask you all to reflect upon is how are we intentionally cultivating authentic belonging spaces for Black students at our predominantly white institutions? Thank you for your time.